Hey guys, welcome to the second video from the CKA series. This video is called From Bare Metal to Kubernetes, the Evolution of Infrastructure. Well, people often say that you can't go far unless you know where you're coming from. So before we dive into Kubernetes, let's take a moment to look back at how we got here and where the industry is heading. Imagine running a company where every single application needs its own physical computer. Not a virtual machine, not a container, a full metal server. Now imagine doing that for 1,000 of applications. That was the reality not very long ago. And the journey from that world to Kubernetes is the most fascinating engineering evolution in modern infrastructure. In this video, we are going to walk through how infrastructure evolved from bare metal to virtual machines to containers and to Kubernetes. And by the end, you will clearly understand why Kubernetes even existed. Engineers are obsessed with one thing, getting more output with less waste. Think about car engines. In the 1960s, a car might give you 12 miles per gallon. But today, modern engines can go up to 50 miles or more for the same amount of fuel, thanks to the engineers who improved the design and the technology of the cars, making them lighter, slicker, and more aerodynamic. Same fuel, but far more better fuel efficiency. Infrastructure engineering follows the same exact philosophy. Every generation of technology tries to answer one question: how do we get more with fewer resources? Imagine a massive data center, rows and rows of servers, thousands of blinking lights, each server running exactly one application. Why only one? Because if you ran multiple applications on the same server, one greedy application could consume all the CPU or memory, crashing everything else. So the safest rule became one application per server. And it worked, but it created a huge problem. Most applications rarely use their full capacity. Maybe they spike during the peak hours, but most of the day, they sit almost idle. So companies would buy expensive, powerful servers only to use less than 40% of their capacity most of the time. Let that sink in. Imagine buying a 100-seater plane and flying it with only 35 passengers. And this created several massive problems. First, space. Every application needed an entire physical server. That means huge data centers filled with racks. Second, power. Even idle server consumes a lot of electricity. Third, cooling. Thousands of servers generate enormous heat. Entire buildings had to be dedicated just to cooling them. Finally, scaling. If your application suddenly needed more capacity, you couldn't just click a button and spin up a new version of your application. You had to order new hardware, wait for delivery, rack it, wire it, and configure it. Sometimes this process took weeks, if not months. That's why engineers knew there had to be a better way. Then came one of the biggest breakthroughs in infrastructure: virtualization. Instead of dedicating one entire server to one application, we could now divide a powerful machine into multiple virtual machines. Each VM behaves like its own server. It has its own CPU allocations, its own memory, and its own operating system. Suddenly, one physical machine could run up to 10, 20 physical virtual servers. Technologies like VMware ESXi, Hyper-V, VirtualBox made all this possible. Result: data centers became dramatically more efficient. Think of it like housing. Before virtualization, running applications was like building detached homes. Every person gets its own house, huge space, huge cost, tons of empty rooms. Virtualization changed that. Now we had apartment buildings, multiple families sharing the same infrastructure, but each still having their own private apartment. This was a massive improvement, yet engineers quickly noticed something. Virtual machines solve many problems, but they introduced a new kind of waste. It's important to understand that applications running inside virtual machine do not run directly on the host operating system. Instead, physical servers first have a layer of hypervisor installed on them. A hypervisor is essentially a specialized operating system designed to create and manage virtual machines. Example includes VMware ESXi and Windows operating system when you are using Microsoft Hyper-V. This hyper layer sits directly on physical servers and is responsible for creating, managing, and allocating resources to virtual machines. Once a virtual machine is created, it cannot run any applications yet because it is essentially like an empty computer with no operating system. First, you must install an operating system inside that VM, which becomes your guest operating system. And only after the guest operating system has been booted, you can finally install and run applications on top of that operating system. The full stack looks like this: physical server, then you have your hypervisor, then you have your virtual machine on top of it. Virtual machine has got a guest OS inside of it, and then the application. Now that way you have hundreds of virtual machines running on the same physical server. So our every VM on the physical server contains a complete operating system. That means its own kernel, its own drivers, its own system services, its own background processors. Even if your application is just a tiny web server, you still need to boot an entire operating system. That means gigabytes of disk space, hundreds of megabytes of RAM, CPU cycles spent on OS tasks instead of the application. And starting a VM, it can take about 30 seconds to 2 minutes, or sometimes even more than that. Engineers once again asked the same question: can we remove this remaining waste? And the answer was containers. Let's first of all understand what are containers. Imagine you want to move your favorite lamp to a friend's house, but your lamp works only if the bulb is the right type, the base fits the socket, and the right wire is used to connect the base with the lamp. If any of these pieces are missing, the lamp won't work. So instead, you pack the lamp, plus the correct bulb, plus the right socket, plus the needed wiring all together in a small box. Now, no matter whose house you take it to, you open the box, plug it in, and it always works. Container is that same box that holds everything that your app needs. It includes your application itself, everything that it needs to run, like the libraries, tools, files, and a tiny minimal environment, not a full operating system, and nothing else. This way, the app runs exactly the same on any computer or server, no surprises. Instead of giving every application its own operating system, containers share the host system's kernel. So, no guest operating system, no duplicated kernel, no unnecessary services. This makes containers extremely lightweight. Instead of gigabytes, container images can be hundreds of megabytes or less. And instead of taking minutes to start, containers start in milliseconds because it's just an application that starts. No OS boots here. So if physical servers were detached houses and virtual machines were apartments, then what are containers? Containers are exactly like hotel dorms. You don't rent an entire room, you just rent a bed. Everything else is shared utilities, shared building infrastructure, but everyone still has their own space for their belongings. That's exactly what containers do for applications. Containers solved efficiency, but they created a completely new challenge. Take a look at this picture over here. Imagine running hundreds or thousands of containers across many servers. Now, how do we know which server should run which applications? What happens if a server crashes? Who restarts the containers? And what if traffic suddenly spikes? Managing this manually would be an absolute chaos. And this is where Kubernetes enters the story. Kubernetes is a container orchestration platform. In simple terms, it's a system that manages containers at massive scale. Kubernetes automatically schedules containers onto servers, restarts failed containers, replaces containers on crashed machines, scales applications during traffic spikes, and rolls back deployments if something breaks. Instead of managing individual servers, Kubernetes lets you treat hundreds of machines as a single system. If we step back and look at evolution of infrastructure, first came physical servers, powerful but wasteful, then the virtual machines, better density but still very heavy, then the containers, lightweight and efficient, and finally Kubernetes, the system that makes large-scale container infrastructure manageable. Virtualization was a huge leap forward, but containers removed the last major layer of waste. And once containers became widely accepted, we needed a powerful system to manage them at scale. And that system is Kubernetes. And in the next part of this series, we will dive deeper into how Kubernetes actually works behind the scenes.